The Iowa Hawkeyes have already clinched the Big Ten West Championship. They're headed to Indianapolis next week. Nebraska, on the other hand, is one win shy of bowl eligibility with one game to go. Can the Huskers pull off some of that Black Friday magic and keep their season rolling?
From LA to Piscataway, all Big Ten all year long. This is Big Ten 10.
Before you talk about offense, defense, or special teams, this game has a very interesting dynamic. You got to think Nebraska is going to come out playing with their hair on fire in this one. This was once a 5-3 football team with games like Michigan State and Maryland and Wisconsin. Winnable games for the Huskers down the stretch. You found a way to lose against Michigan State. The late interception, of course, down by the goal line against Maryland in a game that it seemed like nobody wanted to win. And then the overtime loss to Wisconsin on the road. It looked like 6 wins, maybe even 7 wins. Was a pretty good bet for Nebraska. Now they've got to beat a team, their arch rival, that's playing as good a football as anybody. And then you look at that arch rival. You look at the Iowa Hawkeyes right now. They got everything wrapped up. West Division Championship, check. Ticket punched to the Big Ten Championship game, check. What is the motivation, I think, for the Iowa Hawkeyes in this game? I'll tell you what the motivation is. Despite having everything wrapped up and knowing where they're going next week and accomplishing that goal that I'm sure they set at the beginning of the season, this is a hated rivalry. Scroll through Twitter for Iowa fans and Nebraska fans. I'm sure it's the same for the players. They don't like each other. This is one of my favorite games to watch, not only throughout the entire Big Ten schedule, but especially on rivalry weekend. The Black Friday game, you wake up, you're still a little bit full from Thanksgiving, but by the time noon or maybe halftime of this game rolls around, you throw the turkey, the mashed potatoes, and the stuffing in the microwave, and you've got that great leftovers for a great second half and a finish to this football game, and that's what I'm expecting. I'm expecting a pretty good ball game in this one. Let's talk first about this Iowa offense. They have seemed to hit their stride ever since it was announced that Brian Ferentz would not be returning to 2024 in this team. It almost seemed like at that point, all of the pressure got lifted off of Brian Ferentz's shoulders, and he's like, let's just try some things. Let's see what happens. I'm not worrying about the drive for 325 anymore. I just want to win a football game. I want to win multiple football games. I want to do whatever we have to do to win the Big Ten West and get to Indianapolis. The last few games, Iowa has come out building and instilling confidence in Deacon Hill by throwing the ball early. And it's the passing ability, the increased passing ability from Deacon Hill in this offense is where they find themselves right now. Deacon Hill, boy, you talk about his turnaround. You look at those first 3 games. Now, you got to consider where Deacon was kind of coming into this season. Right, backup quarterback, a younger quarterback. First 3 starts were not all that great. But then ever since the decision was made with Brian Ferentz, he's really turned it around because they're throwing the ball more and earlier in football games to bring that confidence into him right now. I really like what they've done with Deacon Hill because you can always go back to that run game. The run game is always going to be good. Right now, you got Caleb Johnson, Le'Shawn Williams, Jazz Patterson. They're all healthy in that backfield. The offensive line appears to be playing better. And then look at some of these targets. Caleb Brown is standing out as a number 1 wide receiver target. It's kind of taken him a little bit to get used to this offense. Now he's their number 1 guy. And I think that's helped out Deacon Hill as well. And it's always about the tight end position at Iowa. Addison Ostrenga has stepped up. When Eric All and Luke Lachey go down with injuries, he's stepped up and been a big part of this offense as well. It's good to see Deacon Hill throwing the ball earlier in games, bringing up that confidence And then the balance of the run game is also huge for this Iowa Hawkeyes offense. When the run game and the throw game get going, good things happen in Iowa City. So it's Deacon Hill's ability to throw the ball early and maybe even throw the ball often that could be a key to success for Iowa. This is a Nebraska pass defense, and we'll talk about their defense in a minute. The pass defense is probably the weak point of the Huskers. So I could see some things open in this pass game. If Iowa gets it going early, they get that confidence going early like they have the last 2 weeks, there could be some things open down the field for the Iowa Hawkeyes. Now, when you talk about Nebraska, you gotta talk about that defense. What a turnaround. A scheme change, new coaching staff, all of this. Yet Nebraska finds themselves as one of the Big Ten's best defense. Folks, it's Tony White's world, and we're just living in it. And some of these offenses that have lived in Tony White's world, well, they haven't exactly enjoyed it. This is a defense that has been stout against the run. The defensive line, I love Ty Robinson, not only this year, but the past few years as well. And how about one of the greatest names in the Big Ten, Nash Hutmacher? I love how he has played and really come up in the middle of that defensive line as well. We knew about Reimer, we knew about Henrich at linebacker, but guys like John Bullock and Javin Wright have really stepped up. That run defense has been very good so far for Nebraska. You look at that, a top 5 rushing defense in FBS, scoring defense, the top 20 right now in the country. When we talk about Nebraska's defense attacking Iowa's offense, I think it starts with the rush, with the rushing defense specifically. If they can make this Iowa offense one-dimensional, take away the balance, take away the run game, play to your strengths. The strength of this Nebraska defense is defending the run. If they can take that away and then put the ball into the hands of Deacon Hill. Look, I understand. I just talked about how much better Deacon Hill was playing. But Deacon Hill isn't great. Some people might say Deacon Hill isn't even good. He's been better than what he was before, and what he was in his first 3 games as a starter was about as low as you're going to get from a Power 5 quarterback. So although he's better, you put the ball into his hands to go out and win you a football game, and only his hands, and you don't really have a run game, then Iowa could fall into some problems. And that's, I think, where Nebraska really needs to steer into. They need to do their best to win the battle at the line of scrimmage, halt Iowa from running the ball. Because when Iowa's able to throw the ball and when they're able to run the ball, when they have a balanced offense, I think that is when the Hawkeyes are at their absolute best right now. You need to make Deacon Hill the star. Make him be the star. Make him beat you. If Deacon Hill beats you, Nebraska will probably take that. But if Nebraska knows that they have a great rush defense, they need to take advantage of that, certainly up front. And then when you talk about if they can bottle up that Iowa run game, pin your ears back and rush the passer. This is a Nebraska defense that is 3rd in the Big Ten in sacks right now. And you've seen Deacon Hill sometimes. He gets outside the pocket. He's holding the ball out here. A fumble against Minnesota that led to points. Sometimes he'll kind of throw the ball and force it when he's out of the pocket. He's still a young quarterback. When he's under pressure, he's been prone to make some mistakes so far this season. So Nebraska, get after him, get after it. I think that's what you have to do against the Iowa Hawkeyes in this game. Prevent them from having that great balance. Let's talk about Nebraska's offense for a minute. Chubba Purdy. Great decision to put him in there at quarterback. This was one of the best quarterback performances, it seems like, in a long time that I've seen at the University of Nebraska. 15 of 23, 169, a touchdown, and an interception against Wisconsin. But they started off hot, 14-0 in that first quarter, and then they just hit a wall. They need to keep that going. They need to be more consistent on offense. And I think when I look at Iowa's defense, you need to take advantage of that Get Chubba Purdy running around. Use his legs. That was, I think, one of the biggest weapons against Wisconsin. When Chubba Purdy, scrambling, get outside the pocket and take advantage of things with his legs. That's where some of the biggest plays for Nebraska's offense was really made. Iowa, you need to contain him. You need to set the edge. You need to draw him back to the inside, because when he's able to get outside of your widest defenders, that's when Chubba Purdy is really able to make things happen. And for Nebraska, get him in a rhythm early, kind of like Deacon on the other side. Look, I know Nebraska might want to line up. Matt Rule might want to line up and run this football. And they still have to do that to a certain extent, but I want to get Chubba Purdy in this pass game into a rhythm early. Let's get Thomas Fidone a few more catches. Let's throw it to some of these young guys, Malachi Coleman and Jalen Lloyd, and see what they can do. Try to attack this Iowa defense deep. Stretch it out a little bit so they can't defend you by keeping everything in front of you. That is a staple of Iowa, where they don't allow the big play deep and they keep everything in front of you and they tackle really well. Remember last year's matchup when Cooper DeJean went out in the middle of that game. Of course, he's out for the season from a practice injury before the Illinois game. But remember last year where Nebraska, from Casey Thompson to Trey Palmer, they were able to hit those big plays over the top. They were able to stretch out this Iowa defense. Nebraska's, I think, got to try that. Last thing, I got a feeling this one's going to come down to the kicking game, right? You got two offenses that aren't great. You got two really good defenses. I think this one is going to depend on special teams and field goals. And right now, when I look at the kicking game, I'll take Iowa's any day of the week. Torrey Taylor might be the best punter in all of college football. Drew Stevens is very dependable. You look at Tristan Alvano, a freshman kicker that can be pretty iffy at times. I don't care how good he is. Freshman kickers sometimes. Brian Buschini, the punter as well. Iowa, pin Nebraska deep. Make them go 90 yards. Make them go 95, 85 yards, whatever it be. Make them go all the way down the field. Make them earn it. I think the way the personnel kind of shapes out, I think it plays into Iowa's advantage. I think you're going to see a lot of field position, field flipping from the Iowa Hawkeyes in this game. And Nebraska, they got to find a way to avoid that. They got to find a way not get pinned inside the 10. They got to find a way to get points on the board early and avoid getting down. Because when you put pressure on the Iowa Hawkeyes, you get up early, this Iowa team is not built to play from behind. It's going to be a fun game. Black Friday, CBS. Enjoy your leftovers during this Iowa-Nebraska football game. Leave your score predictions and thoughts on this game in the comments below. I'm Big Ten Ted. We'll see you in the next one.
Thanks for watching Big Ten Ted, where it's all Big Ten all year long. Make sure to like the video to spread the word of Big Ten Ted to the masses, and subscribe to the channel for updates on Big Ten content that drops every day.